Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in on this installment of Adminchat, when we're going to be talking about how to look and feel more confident. Now, just as a little footnote before we begin, confidence is not to be mistaken with bragging or arrogance. Confidence is when you're authentic and you feel strong, and hopefully I can give you some tips and tricks to do just that. Before we begin, I thought I would take a moment to introduce myself. I'm a former executive assistant with 15 years experience in corporate. I've subsequently become a full-time trainer. I'm a qualified results-based coach and I work with clients in the EA space. I'm also one of the directors of the SEPA Admin Bursary and recently published a book called The Executive Secretary Guide to Building a Powerful Personal Brand and a long-term friend of Executive Secretary magazine. One of the most significant challenges we all face to looking and feeling more confident is managing our inner critic. That small voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not thin enough, you're not rich enough, you're not whatever enough. So how do we manage this inner critic? The first tip I want to give you is to stop, listen, rectify, and repeat. What do I mean by this? When you start having these negative conversations with yourself, stop that inner dialogue, listen to what you're actually saying and decide how truthful it is, replace it with something more useful, and repeat this process until it becomes a habit. Analyze your inner dialogue. When does your inner critic show up? Is it in times of stress? Is it when you feel like you're not achieving what you've set out to do? When is this appearing and how can you manage the pattern? I want to encourage you to find your inner coach. If we spent a fraction of the time that we spend beating ourselves up on coaching ourselves, we would all be in a better place today. So I want to encourage you to find that inner coach, to surround yourself with positive people, and to start managing the discussion you're having with yourself, because these thoughts become things. Feed your mind with healthy input. If you are finding it challenging looking at fashion magazines, if that affects your self-esteem, try and avoid it. Look at what the inputs are in your life and separate out the things that make you feel bad about yourself. Surround yourself with positive people. There's a very famous saying that you become the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I really want you to reflect on your inner circle, because often our inner circle can contribute to these problems. Stop beating yourself up. Life is hard enough. There are plenty of people who will beat you up for free. So please don't join that party. Stop being so hard on yourself. Perfection doesn't exist. Let's strive for excellent and forget about perfect. Resilience and the reset button are incredible tools. Now, resilience is basically the ability to bounce back from challenge or from problems. And being resilient helps you to cope with the inner critic and the inner dialogue that happens. You also need to find a way to reset after a tough day or when you are having this battle internally. My reset button, for example, is having a nice warm bubble bath, and it always helps me feel better. But it can be as simple as playing with your child, taking a walk with your dog in the sunshine. So find your reset button, whatever works for you. I think something I really want to share with you is that all of us suffer from imposter syndrome. That feeling like I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here, somebody's going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. I want to assure you that I've met some of the most amazing speakers all around the world, some of the most amazing assistants all around the world, and we all feel this way. It's normal, but this is your internal dialogue that needs to be managed. Realize that mistakes are part of growth. Elon Musk actually said that if you're not making mistakes, you're not innovating and creating fast enough. So always bear that in mind. The exact quote by Elon Musk is, "Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you're not innovating enough." And Elon has truly put his money where his mouth is. They've had several SpaceX failures to launch, which has cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But each time they learn. It's not the mistake, it's what you gain from it. Today I want to give you permission to unfollow social media accounts, and real people for that matter, that make you feel bad about yourself. Truly, comparison is the thief of joy, but also sometimes people are in your space, whether it's in real life or online, which make you feel bad about yourself or that create negativity and drama in your reality. I want to encourage you today to spend less time focusing on those people, being in contact with those people. It does not serve you. In trying to understand why we sometimes feel insecure, I think it's important that we reflect on a few matters. What makes assistants feel insecure? What is it about our work environments that create these feelings? What makes women or men feel insecure in the workplace? What makes you personally feel less confident than you really want to be? What behaviors of others make you feel insecure? What personal beliefs do you need to change about yourself to feel less insecure? What about your role or potentially the profile of the profession makes you feel less confident than other employees in your team? I don't have your answers, but hopefully these questions prompt you and help you to analyze your own feelings. We've talked about our internal communication, but we also need to be aware of our external communication with others and how this impacts our confidence and how confident we are perceived to be. Dr. Morabian conducted a very interesting research study in the 1960s and 70s, and he found that an astounding 55% of your communication is transmitted purely through your body language, which is absolutely astounding to think. 38% is the way we sound, our tone, the speed of our communication. And then that leaves us with a mere 7%, which are the words that we use. Therefore, I put it to you that the way you sound and the way you look contribute massively to how confident you not only feel, but how confident you come across. So, how powerful is your body language really? Do people believe what you say or what they see? Let me show you two examples. These are two starkly contrasting images. One is of somebody who looks really afraid, insecure, doesn't want to be here, and the other one who looks empowered and happy and full of energy and full of joy. You've never met these people. They're not really with you. But just by using your eyes and seeing the top half of their bodies, you've already made some assumptions. So what are the important things that we need to consider when we talk about body language, especially for assistants? I think we need to observe our own body language. If we have such a huge portion of our communication happening non-verbally, do we know what our bodies are saying? Now, it's almost impossible for you to read your own body language. So find somebody that you trust, somebody that cares about you, that can give you honest, constructive feedback. It's not easy to hear, but it's most helpful. I have seen people lose potential job interviews because of their body language. So please take the time to get somebody to be your mirror and to work on your body language. One of the big giveaways of feeling nervous or stressed is what your hands are doing. So the more you fidget, the more uncomfortable your hands are, hands in pockets, touching your neck. All these things are dead giveaways that you are feeling nervous. So be aware of what your hands are doing. Often when we're speaking in front of people, you can unconsciously start swaying. This is also another sign of stress and nervousness. So please be aware. Often you do it without even realizing it. Hunching over is another common problem that assistants have. This is a very basic biological drive. Hunching over is actually an attempt to make yourself smaller. The other thing is looking down. Now, I'll touch on eye contact later, but looking at your feet doesn't create a picture of much confidence. Sneaking into a room like you don't belong. Now, the example I always use, and I wish I could show you my body language as I do this, but use your imagination, is when you need to enter a boardroom with senior executives from your company to take paperwork to your boss. Your boss has asked you to come into the room with this paperwork. It's your job, but we all tend to sneak in like tiny mice. Now, the sneaking in is a normal reaction to the stress situation. But what it actually does is it disrupts the meeting. Everyone looks at you, everyone feels embarrassed on your behalf. Think about what it would look like or feel like if you walked in with a bit more confidence. I've actually seen the results of this mind shift for myself. By walking in, making eye contact with a few people around the table and acknowledging them, and walking in confidently, I often disrupt the meeting less. It's something to think about. Eye contact is a very difficult thing. There are no hard and fast rules. In my culture, for example, not making direct eye contact can make you appear that you are being less than honest. In some cultures, it's very rude to look somebody directly in the eyes, especially if they are your elder. So be very aware of the cultural significance of eye contact in your context. What I would recommend to you with your body is to always focus on having straight shoulders and a nice open chest. If you don't understand what that looks like, President Obama is a great example, and I will show you a picture at the end of this slide. Clothing. Clothing also creates a picture. Be aware that in the work situation, we're not encouraging you to have the most expensive, glamorous wardrobe, but do make sure that your nails are kept, that you have an appropriate hairstyle, that you are not showing more of your body than you should within your business context. Walk with purpose. Often, when you are somebody who walks way too slow, people will often experience you as lazy. On the other side of the coin, if you walk way too fast, people can experience you as stressed. So be aware of not only the speed of your speech, but also the speed of your body. The energy level of your body. By being purposeful, you create a picture of yourself as confident and dynamic. So be aware of how you use your body. Smiling. Often, something as simple as smiling can diffuse the tension, and as soon as you smile, you feel more confident. So use it to your advantage. Walk tall. Walking tall is the exact opposite of hunching and looking at your feet. Always walk tall. Not only physically, but also emotionally. Power posing. It was a very, very interesting TED talk that I watched a while back by a lady called Amy Cuddy. And I would like you to have a look at this video because she explains the science of power posing and shows you very meaningful examples and why we should be using it. I don't want you to buy into the cliches of body language. Often people will say, when I've got my arms crossed, that I'm cutting myself off from communication. But have you thought that perhaps that person is merely feeling cold? Perhaps the air conditioner is too high. So don't necessarily judge other people's body language by the cliches that you hear. Now, I love this quote by Amy Cuddy. She says, "Our bodies change our minds, and our minds change our behavior. And our behavior changes our outcomes." And this has been proven through neuroscience. So please be aware of what your body is saying to you, but also what your body is saying to other people. I think that this photograph of President Obama perfectly illustrates what I was saying about square, open body language. Look how square his shoulders are, how he's facing forward. It creates a picture of confidence and also ease. One of the videos that I use in my courses when I discuss body language is The Kid President Meets President Obama. I have left the reference link at the back of this presentation for you. It really does tell you a lot about good body language and how to use your body to its full effect. Just like your body language, your voice will affect not only how confident you seem, but how confident you feel. So here's some things to consider. Your voice is one of the hardest things to manage or change. If you have been born with a nasal or a squeaky voice, it's very hard to change that vocal pattern. The good news is there are many tutorials available on YouTube where you can actually download some exercises to work on your voice. This is not something that changes overnight and will need an immense commitment from you on time and committed practice, but it is worth doing. The next thing is that our voice is interconnected with our emotions. You can often hear when somebody's stressed in their voice or when somebody's been crying. Our voices are affected by emotions, so that's something to be aware of. The most common manifestation of this is what I like to call shaky voice syndrome. It's when you have to get up and speak in front of people and suddenly you can't control your voice and it shakes and you feel like you're completely out of control. This is adrenaline and cortisol pumping through your body, which is actually affecting your voice in that moment, and that is a common problem. The next thing is rushing your speed. Often when people need to speak in front of others, they tend to speak much faster than they normally do, often rambling. The biggest trick I can give you, the biggest tip, is that you have a bottle of water handy or a glass of water. And when you start feeling yourself rushing, take a conscious decision to stop, take a sip of water, and then continue at a much more regulated pace. This is something that I had to learn because it was one of the problems that I struggled with when I started speaking. Strong voices come with many advantages, much like good body language. Be aware that if you are not speaking confidently in an interview, it could cost you a job. So be aware that this is something that needs work. There's also a culture around the use of your natural voice and about being heard. And sadly, this often affects women. And because we're a female-dominated, service-orientated profession, I've seen this manifest in classrooms all over the world. The good news is that we're seeing some of this change because of the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement, and because of greater awareness on equality, gender equality in the workplace. But I hope that I can encourage you all to start using the voices that you were blessed with. I want you to find your natural voice. Now, often when I'm in a classroom situation and we're doing this practically, people will say to me, Anel, how do I know what my natural voice is? And your natural voice is the voice you would use when you are having coffee with your friends, or when you're chatting to your pet, or talking to your child at home. And I'm not talking about scolding your child at home, chatting to your child at home. That is your natural vocal range. So try and work on using that more and more. Often we have one completely different profile at home and one completely different profile at work. But I want to encourage you to use your natural voice because it's much more authentic and much more powerful. Use the right speed when talking. By using the right speed, we can build rapport with others. If a client calls and the client is very upset and says, Anel, I'm phoning you because I'm really unhappy about the service received from your team. And I respond, oh, sir, I'm so sorry to hear that. I will get somebody to attend to that immediately. The client now experiences me as low energy and not taking him seriously, and often this will make the client much more angry. On the other hand, if I say, sir, I'm very sorry to hear that you're unhappy about this. I'm going to get my team onto this immediately and I will give you feedback before the close of business today. The client feels heard. The client feels understood. By using the right speed and intensity and energy, I'm actually building rapport with the client. So be aware that that is also important. The power of the pause. I think sometimes we feel pressure to speak and speak and speak, but we don't realize how powerful the silence can be. So use the pause. Some of the aspects of body language and voice will require a lot of hard work, but there are also some shortcuts, some tips, some tricks, and some cheats that I want to teach you. So what are some of the cheats and tricks we can use? Well, one of the very important ones is breathing. Whenever you're preparing for something stressful, or you need to speak in public, or you need to enter that boardroom and you don't feel comfortable, take a couple of deep breaths. Get focused, get centered, and let that oxygen flood your body. Once you've done that, you'll feel ready to take it on. Warming up your voice. This is a very, very easy way to sound better, and it is very important to do this before an interview, before a difficult discussion, before you need to take on a conflict situation. What I normally would do is I would sing along to the radio in my car. As stupid as that sounds, I would use my morning commute to warm up my voice if I knew I had a big day ahead. It can be as simple as humming a tune or singing in the shower, but warming up your voice will give you better results. Resonance. Now, resonance is the vibration of your voice. Humming is very good practice to create more resonance, and resonance gives your voice warmth. So practice humming and make sure that when you hum, you feel your chest cavity vibrate. Projecting. Projecting is not volume. Projecting is getting your voice to travel across the room. Now, an easy way to make sure that you are projecting when you're talking to a group of people is to make sure that the person at the back of the room can hear you. This is not screaming, this is projecting your voice forward. I've mentioned in this video that speed does help when you want to build rapport or when you want to come across as more confident. So be aware of the speed, not only of your body, but also the speed of your voice. Be aware of what your body is doing. Be an observer of yourself on the inside. So as soon as you catch yourself doing something that you know is a giveaway that makes you look insecure or nervous, correct it immediately. Make sure that you get a partner, a neutral observer, to help you with both body and voice. Start doing the work. The more you practice the speech, or you practice speaking in front of people, or you take these opportunities, the more confident you will become. Working on your voice by using the YouTube videos, working on your body language by getting the continual feedback. The work is important and will serve you long term. I want you to emulate good, powerful body language. I want to encourage you to find somebody in your organization or in your team or in your management structure that has really powerful body language and a really good voice. And look at what they're doing and see what you can learn from them. So our body language and our voice skills will come to bear when we need to have difficult discussions. Now, these can be discussions like our performance appraisals, going for an interview, asking for training or a raise perhaps. So how do we get prepared for this? Well, the first thing is it starts in the mind. We need to plan our discussions very carefully. We need to know who we are speaking to, what we want out of the engagement, and what we will need as an argument when we are talking to the person. If your manager likes facts, it doesn't help that you tell him how you feel. You need to present facts. So know who you are speaking to and in what format they need information. Have an option A and an option B. Now, this is a naughty thing that I learned while I was working in corporate. If you walk in and you want to request really expensive training, and you know that the chances are slim that you'll actually get that training, but you also want Friday afternoon off. Having Friday afternoon in your pocket when you ask for training often means that you get Friday afternoon off. So be aware of that as a strategy. Practice and preparation are key. The more you practice, the less nervous you'll be and the more naturally these things will occur. So use normal opportunities in your day-to-day work life to practice body language, to practice good voice, and the more you practice it, the more natural it will become. Often, when I'm preparing for a stressful discussion, I ask myself, what is the worst thing that could happen? And as strange as it sounds, imagining the worst thing that could happen often takes the stress out of the situation for me. Understand other people's culture and their body language. Now, we're in the lucky position to be exposed to our management teams and our managers on a regular basis, and we've become really attuned to their body language. Now, instead of just observing their body language, start putting it to good use when you are preparing for these discussions. So why does confidence matter? Well, as I've mentioned before, people do judge a book by its cover, and this has consequences. Poor body language or voice can create an incorrect picture of who you are. It can affect the opportunities that you get offered. It can affect your salary and promotion expectations. It can influence interview outcomes, and I've seen this with my own eyes. It can greatly reduce the chances of you getting what you're asking for. And it can affect your personal brand. So I want to encourage each of you to go and work on your confidence levels, the internal side of it, the external side of it, because it is worth it. These are the 2 videos that I referenced during today's Adminchat. Please go and check them out. I'm sure you will thoroughly enjoy them and find them very useful. So in closing, I just wanted to thank my friends at Executive Secretary Magazine and their online community for this opportunity to take part in yet another Adminchat. If you want to keep in touch with me, you'll find my info below. My website is www.anelmartin.co.za. Twitter is @AnelMartin, and the Facebook page is Upgrade Yourself, Anel Martin Training. Instagram, Anel the Trainer. I do hope you'll connect with me and we can keep the conversation going, and you can tell me all about how you're getting good results.